Minnesota winter mornings are mercilessly cold. Jennifer Brown finished her night shift at the hospital and hurried across the snow-covered parking lot. When she started her car, the dashboard clock showed 7 o'clock. She needed to rush home, or her son Aiden would be late for school. Jennifer's life was a constant battle against time. She lived with her 12-year-old son Aiden in Willowbrook, a small town in Minnesota. Working as a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital while raising her son as a single mother, she was doing her best to make ends meet. "Mom, can you come to my game today?" Aiden asked while stirring his breakfast cereal. His brown hair was a bit too long, occasionally hiding his large brown eyes. "I'm sorry, honey. I have another shift starting this evening," Jennifer apologized. "But I've asked Coach Jim to record it for us." Aiden shrugged. "It's okay, Mom. I understand." There was disappointment in his voice, but he quickly regained his cheerful smile. "I'm going to make a three-pointer today." Jennifer gently stroked her son's head. Aiden had grown up without knowing his father. When Jennifer discovered she was pregnant, her boyfriend Daniel had disappeared, saying he wasn't ready for a family yet. Since then, Jennifer had struggled to raise her child alone. The phone rang, and Jennifer sighed. It was her mother, Martha. "Good morning, Mom." "Jennifer, you didn't answer your phone yesterday." Martha's voice had a reproachful tone. "I was working the night shift." "I need to talk to you about Brittany's wedding," Martha continued, ignoring her daughter's excuse. "I want to confirm the invitation list. You and Aiden are coming, right?" "Of course," Jennifer replied while gazing out the window. "But I still need to arrange my shifts." "This is your sister's once-in-a-lifetime special day," Martha's voice grew stern. "Her marriage to Robert Carter is big news in this town. He's a famous architect, and Brittany is finally going to establish a wonderful family." Martha owned an upscale clothing store in Willowbrook. For her, social status and appearances were paramount. She had been beautiful in her youth and still retained traces of that beauty, but it was now mixed with a certain coldness. "I know. We'll definitely be there. Make sure Aiden wears proper attire," Martha said. "Brittany's new in-laws are all very refined people." Jennifer nodded silently. In Martha's eyes, her single mother, eldest daughter and the grandson with an unknown father were always a family embarrassment. In contrast, her younger daughter Brittany had been spoiled by Martha since childhood. She had studied accounting at the local university and was now successful as a manager at a luxury boutique hotel. "By the way, the wedding preparation committee meeting is this Thursday," Martha said. "You should come too." "I'm working on Thursday. And I also have a parent-teacher conference for Aiden." Always an excuse, isn't it? Disappointment seeped into Martha's voice. "Brittany asked you to be her bridesmaid, and you can't even make time. Do you know how hurt Brittany is?" Jennifer wanted to object but knew it was pointless. Brittany had never once asked her to be a bridesmaid. In fact, Brittany had asked her high school friends. But in Martha's mind, her eldest daughter's unwillingness to participate in her sister's wedding was proof of Jennifer's failure. "All right, Mom. I'll see if I can change my shift on Thursday." After hanging up, Jennifer leaned against the kitchen counter for a while. In the 3 months since Brittany's engagement announcement, every family conversation had revolved around the wedding. "Mom, are you okay?" Aiden asked worriedly. Jennifer smiled at her son. "I'm fine. Grandma is just excited about your aunt's wedding. I'm looking forward to the chocolate fountain." Aiden's eyes sparkled. "Aunt said they'll have a really big one." Jennifer felt warmed by her son's innocent joy. Aiden had always been her support. "It's time for school," she said. "Put on your coat." After Aiden left the room, Jennifer picked up her smartphone and checked a message from Brittany. "I'm working on the seating arrangements. Can Aiden behave properly? Should we seat him toward the back?" Jennifer put down her phone and took a deep breath. She thought the next few weeks were going to be long. On the morning of the wedding day, Jennifer's small apartment had an unusual tension. In the bedroom, Aiden was struggling with his new suit. "I can't get this tie right," he said. Jennifer paused from ironing the last wrinkles out of her dress and headed to her son's room. Aiden stood in front of the mirror with a navy blue tie dangling around his neck, looking troubled. "Come here," Jennifer smiled, taking her son's tie. "I'll teach you the perfect Windsor knot." Aiden watched his mother's hands intently. "This suit was expensive, wasn't it?" he asked softly. Jennifer paused momentarily. Aiden's navy blue suit had cost her 3 months' worth of overtime pay. Despite their financial struggles, she wanted her son to look his best for the occasion. "Don't worry about it," she said lightly. "It's a special outfit for a special day." "Do I look handsome?" Aiden asked anxiously. "You look absolutely handsome," Jennifer replied as she straightened his shoulders. "You'll be the most wonderful boy at this wedding." Aiden grinned. His smile seemed to brighten their entire small apartment. Jennifer kissed him lightly on the cheek. "It's almost time to leave." Before leaving the apartment, Jennifer checked herself in the mirror. Her simple navy blue dress was borrowed from a hospital colleague. This was the best she could do. She took a deep breath and squared her shoulders. "It'll be fine," she told herself. "Mom, you look beautiful," Aiden said from behind her. Jennifer smiled at her son. "Thank you, honey." As they got into the car, Jennifer's smartphone rang. It was Martha. "Jennifer, don't be late. We're taking family photos before the ceremony." Martha's voice was high with tension. "We're just leaving now, Mom. Brittany is worried. She's anxious about whether you'll show up properly." Jennifer gripped the steering wheel tightly. "We will arrive at the promised time." "Can Aiden behave himself? Can he sit still during the ceremony?" "Mom, Aiden is 12 years old now. He's not a baby." Jennifer's voice had a rare edge of anger. Martha sighed on the other end of the line. "I understand. But he's been raised in special circumstances." Special circumstances, Martha's favorite euphemism, avoiding directly saying the fact that he had no father. "We'll be arriving shortly," Jennifer said calmly and hung up. Aiden was staring out the window. "Grandma doesn't like me, does she?" he suddenly asked. Jennifer looked at her son. She was sometimes surprised by Aiden's sensitivity. "That's not true. Grandma just has some old-fashioned ideas. But she loves you, in her own way." Aiden nodded silently. When they arrived at the luxurious garden of the Marriott Hotel, Jennifer and Aiden were overwhelmed by the elegant decorations and sense of luxury. The wedding venue, adorned with white roses and lavender, looked like something out of a fairy tale. At the entrance stood a sign with "Brittany and Robert" written in gold letters. "Wow, Mom," Aiden's eyes shone. "It's like a movie." As they entered the lobby, Martha hurriedly approached them. She was wearing a pearl necklace and a light lavender dress. "Finally, you're here." Martha glanced briefly at Jennifer, then immediately turned her attention to Aiden. "Hello, Aiden. What a nice suit." Her voice softened, but there was a hint of surprise in it. "Where's Brittany?" Jennifer asked. "In the bride's room." "Hurry, the family photo session has already started." They rushed down the hotel corridor. Along the way, Jennifer noticed many unfamiliar faces. Martha seemed to have invited many wealthy friends, as expensive clothing and sparkling jewelry caught her eye. When they arrived at the bride's room, Brittany was sitting surrounded by multiple stylists. Her blonde hair was styled in an elaborate updo, and she was wearing a white silk robe. "Jenny. You finally made it," Brittany exclaimed when she saw her sister. "I was so worried." "We arrived earlier than the promised time," Jennifer replied quietly. "Aiden, you've grown so much," Brittany said to her nephew. "There's a dessert table, why don't you check it out later?" Aiden looked at Jennifer. She nodded slightly, and he gave a shy smile. "Before the photo shoot, I need to talk to you." Martha took Jennifer's arm and pulled her to a corner of the room. Brittany followed them. This is a special day, Martha said with a stern expression. Robert's family members are all very important people. His father is close to the mayor. And Jennifer frowned. After the family photos, I want you two to sit in the back, Brittany interjected. I've reserved the main seats for Robert's cousins. We'd like you to not draw attention, Martha added. This is Brittany's important day. Jennifer was speechless. Anger welled up in her chest, but she knew starting an argument here wouldn't do any good. Today was her sister's day. Fine, she answered quietly. Aiden and I will sit in the back. My, how unusually compliant, Brittany laughed lightly. Thank you, Jenny. The photo session was painful. Jennifer and Aiden were placed at the edge of the family photos, and for some shots, the photographer said, family only, excluding them. Aiden squeezed his mother's hand tightly. It's okay, Jennifer whispered in her son's ear. It's enough that we're here. Before the ceremony began, Jennifer and Aiden were shown to their seats, in the very last row. Aiden was distracted by the beauty of the venue, pointing out the sparkling chandeliers and colorful flowers. Look, Mom. It's so beautiful. Jennifer was warmed by her son's innocent joy. For him, this was just a wonderful adventure. He didn't notice his mother's sadness. The music began, and the guests stood up. Watching Brittany enter on her father's arm, Jennifer felt mixed emotions but wished for her sister's happiness. The groom looks cool, Aiden said innocently. Indeed, Robert Carter had an impressive appearance. He was tall with a composed demeanor and sincere eyes. The way he looked at Brittany showed genuine affection. As guests moved to the reception hall, Jennifer took Aiden's hand. The reception hall was adorned with dazzling decorations, and crystal chandeliers cast a soft light from the ceiling. Following the seating chart they received at the entrance, Jennifer and Aiden were guided to the back of the venue. Their table was located near an exit, a place where kitchen staff frequently passed through. We're sitting here? Aiden asked quietly. Yes, honey, Jennifer answered gently. We can see everything from here. At the main table in front, the newlyweds and the main family members were seated. Brittany was radiant in her pure white wedding dress, while Robert sat beside her with a refined smile. Martha was also there, laughing loudly in her lavishly jeweled appearance. Their happy conversation blended with the soft music filling the venue. Oh, there's the chocolate fountain. Aiden's eyes lit up. A massive chocolate fountain had been set up in a corner of the hall, where guests were dipping fruits and pastries into the flowing chocolate. We'll go there together later, Jennifer smiled at her son. She had decided to stay cheerful all day for Aiden's sake. After the food was served, champagne poured, and toasts and speeches were given, dessert was served, and the MC took the microphone again. Ladies and gentlemen, are you enjoying this wonderful evening? He called out to the entire hall. Now, before the cake cutting, the bride and groom have prepared a special entertainment. As the room fell silent, the MC took out a card and began to read. We have a special guest to introduce today. Jennifer reached for her wine glass and took a sip. Perhaps this was some entertainment by Robert's relatives or friends. Here is Aiden Brown, a boy with an unknown father. Please come to the stage. The MC's voice echoed throughout the hall. Jennifer's wine glass slipped from her hand, leaving a red stain on the tablecloth. The room fell silent for a moment, then uneasy laughter began to spread. Aiden, where are you? Special guest Aiden, the MC called again. Aiden's face turned bright red, and tears welled up in his eyes. His small shoulders began to tremble. Jennifer sat frozen. Her heart was pounding, and she felt her whole body heating up with anger and humiliation. Looking at the main table, she saw Brittany clapping with delight. Humor is so important, isn't it? Martha said to the woman next to her as she tilted her wine glass. It's a lovely idea to add some laughter to the ceremony. Jennifer stood up. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was surprisingly calm. Aiden, let's go home. But, Mom. Aiden said, trying to hold back tears. No, please wait. Suddenly, a strong voice resonated from the front of the hall. Robert Carter stood up and took the microphone. The room fell silent again. Brittany's smile froze. I want to tell you all something important today, Robert said in a calm but powerful voice. He took an envelope from his formal suit pocket. Jennifer stood with her hand on Aiden's shoulder, protectively. Her mind was in confusion. What kind of charade was this? I want to talk about the truth regarding Aiden Brown, Robert said as he opened the envelope. Brittany rose from her seat and exclaimed, Robert, what are you doing? But he quietly gestured for her to sit down. These are documents to legally welcome Aiden Brown as my son. He took papers out of the envelope. They include certificates to give him his father's surname and establish an educational trust fund. As murmurs spread through the hall, Robert looked toward Aiden. He is no longer a child without a father. He will become my son. Brittany turned pale, and Martha was left speechless with her mouth open. Aiden's eyes were wide with confusion and surprise. What are you saying? Brittany said in a trembling voice. This is a joke, right? This is not a joke, Robert answered firmly. He left the main table and began walking toward Jennifer and Aiden's table. Everyone in the hall held their breath, watching this unexpected development. Robert knelt in front of Aiden. Aiden, I would like to formally welcome you as my son. Of course, if your mother permits. His voice was gentle and sincere. Aiden looked at his mother with a confused expression. Jennifer was equally confused. She didn't know Robert. She couldn't understand why he would do such a thing. What kind of joke is this? Jennifer asked softly. Why would you do this? This is no joke, Robert stood up and looked Jennifer straight in the eyes. I have my reasons. And I want everyone to hear them now. He took the microphone again. Everyone, I also grew up without a father. At these words, the hall fell even more silent. When I was 12, while my mother raised me alone, we struggled financially. And many people looked down on us. Robert's voice was filled with deep emotion. At a Christmas party, I was introduced as the child without a father and humiliated in front of everyone. The guests were listening breathlessly. Brittany sat stunned. When I met Aiden, I saw myself in him. And I realized there was something I could do, Robert continued. Blood ties are not the only definition of family. Choice and love create family. Many guests began to shed tears of emotion. Aiden's eyes shone with surprise and hope. I want to provide Aiden with legal protection and support. Instead of being called a boy with an unknown father, I want him to live with pride. Robert held up the documents. This is a promise. For Aiden's future. Brittany, red-faced with anger and shame, left her seat and rushed out of the hall. Martha hurriedly followed her. Applause broke out in the hall, and many guests stood up to show their appreciation. Aiden looked up at Robert with a mixture of tears and smiles. Jennifer embraced her son with trembling hands, speechless at this unexpected turn of events. Her heart was a mixture of confusion, gratitude, and wariness. Amid the applause filling the venue, Robert turned to Jennifer. His eyes held a mixture of determination and gentleness. May I have some time to talk with you? He said quietly. Jennifer hesitated briefly, then nodded. Aiden, wait here for a bit. But, Mom. Aiden said with a confused expression. It's okay, I'll be right back, Jennifer said gently, giving her son a light kiss on the cheek. Robert guided Jennifer to a small reception room in a corner of the venue. Inside were soft sofas and potted plants, and the twilight sky was visible through the windows. I'd like an explanation, Jennifer said as soon as the door closed. Her voice mixed tension and caution. What kind of performance is this? Robert took a deep breath. First, let me apologize. What Brittany did to Aiden is unforgivable. She prepared that script, and I only found out about it this morning. Then, those documents? Jennifer folded her arms. They are real, Robert said with a sincere expression. I want to legally become Aiden's guardian. I want to establish a trust fund for his education and future. Why? Jennifer's voice trembled. You don't know us. Robert gestured for her to sit on the sofa, sitting down himself. Actually, I've met Aiden several times. At the local basketball tournaments. Jennifer frowned. She rarely made it to her son's games. Night shifts and overtime often coincided. I volunteer as a coach, Robert explained. Aiden is very talented. As I talked with him, I learned about his situation. And he paused for a moment as if searching for words. I remembered my own childhood. Did you really grow up without a father? Jennifer asked skeptically. Yes, Robert nodded. My mother worked as a maid. I was able to go to college thanks to scholarships. But the journey to get there was difficult, Jennifer said quietly. Aiden is a special child, Robert continued. He needs opportunities. And I want to protect him from people who label him as a fatherless. Tears welled up in Jennifer's eyes. I couldn't protect him. No, you are a wonderful mother, Robert said earnestly. Aiden is loving, polite, and intelligent. That's all thanks to you. But what about Brittany? Jennifer asked. She's your fiancée. Robert's expression clouded. Today, I saw her true self. Our values are too different. What about the wedding? It will probably be cancelled, Robert answered quietly. For me, doing the right thing is more important. Jennifer gazed out the window. Why are you doing this? What's in it for you? It's not about gain, Robert shook his head. There was no one to help 12-year-old me. So now, I want to help. There was a knock at the door, and Aiden peeked in cautiously. Can I come in? Come in, Jennifer extended her hand. Aiden entered the room and sat next to his mother. Everyone was looking at me, he said softly. How did that make you feel? Robert asked gently. Aiden thought for a moment before answering. I was scared at first. But now? I don't know. I'm confused. Robert looked Aiden straight in the eyes. Aiden, I'm not forcing anything on you. This is just an offer. If I become your legal father, you won't have to worry about tuition or your future. And you won't need to write "no father" on school or official forms. Aiden's eyes widened. Really? But I want you to promise me one thing, Robert said with a serious expression. Take care of your mother. She's the bravest and most dedicated person in the world. Aiden looked up at Jennifer. Mom, what do you think? Jennifer gently stroked her son's hair. Her head was full of complex thoughts. Was this really going to benefit them, or was there some other intention? This is just a paperwork procedure, Robert said, as if sensing Jennifer's concerns. I just want to give Aiden stability and security. Our relationship would be strictly as Aiden's co-guardians. That's all. Jennifer asked skeptically. That's all, Robert nodded. Perhaps I could play basketball with Aiden once a week, or help with school matters, things like that. But all with your permission. Jennifer thought deeply. Throughout her life, she had believed many promises only to be betrayed. However, truth shone in Robert's eyes. And above all, this was an opportunity for Aiden's future. Aiden, what do you want? She asked her son. Aiden thought for a moment before answering. Robert always comes to watch my basketball games. And he taught me how to pass and make shots. I think he's a good person. Robert smiled at Aiden. But isn't he going to marry Auntie? Aiden continued. Robert shook his head. After today's events, I don't think that will happen. At that moment, the door burst open, and Brittany entered with an angry face. Martha was behind her. How much more will you humiliate me? Brittany shouted at Robert. You've ruined this wedding, and now you're trying to steal my niece? Aiden is a boy, Jennifer quietly corrected. Whatever. Brittany waved her hand. Robert, if this is a joke, stop it right now and apologize to the guests. Robert stood up and faced Brittany with a resolute attitude. This is not a joke. I wanted to show what true family means here today. I can't show my face in this town anymore. Brittany cried. There are more important things, Robert answered quietly. Martha turned to Jennifer. Were you involved in this? Did you seduce him? Mom, stop it, Jennifer said in a tired voice. Don't always blame everything on me. Brittany stormed out of the venue in anger and humiliation, and Martha followed her. Silence returned to the room. 1 year later, a Minnesota park was bathed in early summer sunshine. On the basketball court, middle schoolers were engaged in a heated game. Aiden Carter had the ball, skillfully dribbled past his opponent, and made a perfect three-point shot. Nice shot. Robert called out, and Aiden beamed. Jennifer's applause echoed from the stands. Dressed in her nurse's uniform, she had come to watch her son's game between shifts. When the final whistle blew, Aiden's team celebrated their victory. After high-fiving his teammates, he ran over to Robert and Jennifer. Did you see that shot? Aiden asked excitedly. It was perfect, Jennifer hugged her son. Your team won thanks to you. That's the result of practice, Robert patted the boy lightly on the shoulder. Shall we practice on the court this Saturday? Aiden nodded and replied, I'll definitely be there. As they walked toward the parking lot, Jennifer's smartphone rang. Looking at the screen, she saw it was from Martha. It's from Mom, she sighed. I'll call her back later. Robert nodded understandingly. The relationship with Martha was still complicated. Since that wedding, Martha and Brittany had left town. Martha occasionally called, but she never apologized. She only made excuses, saying, it was meant to be a joke at the time. Brittany had started a new job in Chicago and posted photos of a glamorous life on social media, but Jennifer had heard from acquaintances that she was actually quite lonely. The rumor of her broken engagement with Robert had long been a topic of gossip in the small town. How about dinner together? Robert suggested. To celebrate Aiden's victory. Thank you, but we'll spend the evening by ourselves, Jennifer replied. I need to thank my colleague who switched shifts with me. Robert didn't hide his disappointment but showed understanding. Of course. Next time. Over the past year, they had built a special relationship. Robert fulfilled his role as a legal father and valued the time he spent with Aiden once a week. Aiden had a new surname, Carter, and lived confidently at school. See you on Thursday, Robert said to Aiden. I'll help you with your math homework. Thank you, Aiden answered with a smile. See you Thursday. On the way home, looking out the window, Aiden said, Mom, what did Grandma say today? Jennifer hesitated for a moment. Grandma wants to visit us next month. Aiden showed a surprised expression. Really? Yes. Maybe she's changing a little bit too. That evening, after Aiden went to bed, Jennifer sat on the living room sofa, reflecting on the wedding day a year ago. The humiliation and pain of that day, and the unexpected turning point. She had learned that life sometimes changes in the most unexpected ways. The next morning, the doorbell rang. When Jennifer opened the door, Martha was standing there. Instead of her usual lavish attire, she wore a simple dress. Jenny, Martha's voice trembled. May I talk to you? Jennifer hesitated slightly but invited her mother into the living room. I've learned what true family means from Robert and Aiden, Martha spoke tearfully. I don't know if you can forgive me, but I was wrong. Jennifer took a deep breath. It would take time to rebuild trust. But she remembered the most important lesson Aiden had learned from Robert. Family is something you choose, something you protect, and sometimes something you forgive. She took Martha's hand. It was a moment of new beginnings.